Aquí siempre se han hecho las cosas así.
We've always done things
Yo
this way
trabajé
here.
10 años
I worked for 10
para
years
México
outside
en
Mexico
empresas multinacionales en donde todo eran
in transnational
formatos,
corporations
procesos,
where
políticas.
it was
Y
all
entonces en realidad
formats,
fue muy fácil.
policies, processes, and it
Todos
was
tenían
really
una
easy.
manera de ser, todo era muy sencillo.
Everything had a way
Claro,
of being,
siempre
everything
sus
was simple,
complications y sus retos, ¿no?
always
Pero
with complications and rules, of course,
interesante es
but
que yo no tuve
the
que inventar el agua
interesting thing
tibia.
is
Estaba
that
inventada por mí, se podía mejorar, se podía innovar,
we could
pero no lo tuve que inventar.
innovate, we could improve,
Por circunstancias de la vida, 15 años
and because
después,
of life
termino
circumstances,
trabajando
15
para
years
Grupo
later,
Bimbo en México.
I
Grupo
started
Bimbo, les
working
doy
for
un
the
poquito
Bimbo
de
Group
contexto, es
in
una
Mexico.
empresa
I'll
que
give you a little
tiene
bit of
45
context. It's a
años.
company that
Los
has
dueños van
45
todos los
years.
días
It's 45 years
a
old.
las oficinas a trabajar. Uno de
The
ellos tiene
owners go
95
into the
años y el
office
otro
every
tiene
day.
85
One of them
años.
is
Ninguno de los
95
dos
and the other one is
pertenece
85 years
al
old.
board of
None of
al
them is
consejo,
on the
pero su hijo sí,
board of directors,
pero tienen el peso
but
que deben de
his
tener
son
como
is
dueños,
on
¿no?
it.
Es una empresa muy tradicional. El porcentaje
It's a very
de tiempo
traditional
que tienen los
company.
empleados en Grupo Bimbo es de 15
The
años.
time percentage is
Si llevas un
average
año y
is
medio,
15
entonces
years
soy como bebé.
for each
O sea,
employee.
eres nueva, eres de la
And I've only been there for
eres de la
a year and a
generación
half, so I'm
baby
like a
boomers, ¿no?
baby.
Ahí están los
From the Y
baby
generation.
boomers son los nuevos, ¿no?
Baby
Porque tienen
boomers
15
are the new
años.
ones.
Pero en realidad
Because
el grueso tiene
in
25, 30 años trabajando en
truth,
el
most of them has 25 or 30 years
nos
experience in the
encontramos
group.
con un reto impresionante. Me invitan
We
a
have to
trabajar
face
que está aquí
an impressive
conmigo,
challenge.
y la primera frase que nos encontramos en
The
todas las
first
juntas
thing, the
es
first
también es
sentence
nuevo, en
we
tener
encounter
ese
in
modelo.
all of the
La
meetings
dirección de bienes raíces no
is
existía en Grupo
also
Bimbo hasta hace 2 años y medio.
new,
A pesar de que sus activos valen cualquier cantidad de dinero.
and
Grupo Bimbo es dueño de
even
la
though the
mayoría de sus
assets may be
planes en todo el
of
mundo.
X
Grupo Bimbo
value,
tiene representación
so
en 20
the
países
Bimbo Group has
alrededor,
representation in
y
20
sin contar
countries.
Canadá, tiene más o menos
Without
5
counting
millones de
Canada,
metros cuadrados
it
que
has more or
administrar.
less 5
No había
million
un
square
departamento de
meters
bienes
to
raíces.
manage.
Esto es
And there
nada más
was
para dar
no
un
department
contexto
for
del
this.
reto al que nos enfrentamos todos
And this
los
is just to
días.
give you a bit of context as to the challenge we have to face each day.
Empezamos a platicar de políticas,
The
de
first
formatos,
meeting,
de
we
cómo vamos a
started
hacer las
talking
cosas,
about
y con lo
policies,
primero que nos
formats,
encontramos es que uno de nuestros
and the first
colegas
thing
levanta la mano y
we've
dice,
encountered is
"Pero
that
¿por
one of our
qué?
colleagues raised
Si
his
aquí
hand and
siempre
said,
hacemos las
why?
cosas así".
We've always done things this
Entonces,
way here.
ayer que el compañero de
So
Hacienda
yesterday,
hablaba de por qué se hacen las cosas así, dije,
the
"No soy la
minister
única,
said
y estamos hablando del
how
gobierno
we
de
do things
España",
here,
¿no? Entonces,
and I'm not
de
the only
alguna
one
manera
here.
me sentí
We're talking
relevada
about
porque
the
dije,
Spanish
"No, o
government.
sea, no soy la única loquita que va nadando
I
contracorriente",
felt
¿no?
relieved that I'm not
Creo
the
que está
only
en
one
nuestras manos
who's
generar este
going
cambio.
against the
Somos
tide.
los facility managers. Se
And I
hablaba que si
think
era el
we,
departamento
as
de
facility
recursos
managers, can
humanos,
generate this
o si
change.
nos tocaba a nosotros o a quién le tocaba. Yo creo que nos toca a
And
todos.
we're
Yo creo
debating
que
if
nosotros
it should be
podemos
human
tomar la
resources
iniciativa y
or
tenemos
facility managers.
todas las
I think
ventajas
all
y
of
todas
us
las
should do it,
posibilidades en la mano
but we
para
have
tener
all
estos
of
resultados, ¿no?
the initiative
¿Cómo lo
to
empezamos a
change
hacer?
things.
Vamos a implementar una
How
herramienta.
do we start?
Vamos a
Let's
dar
start
toda la
talking about a
información,
tool.
meter toda la información para entender qué tenemos, porque
We
no
have to
sabíamos
input
qué
all
era,
of the information to
cuáles
try to
habían sido los
understand.
contratos, en dónde estaban los
When we
contratos,
mention
¿no?
contracts,
Entonces,
where the
una
contracts
herramienta.
were.
Y
So
la
one of the
primera reacción
tools,
fue, ¿para qué vamos a invertir en
and the
una
first
herramienta
reaction
tan cara?
was, why are we going to
Si el
invest
gerente
into
de la
such
planta
an
sabe qué
expensive
hace,
tool?
¿no? ¿Y quién es el gerente y dónde está? Y de
And who's
verdad
the
íbamos
manager?
a
And
las
where is he?
plantas
And yes,
y
we would
el
go to the
archivero estaba
plants,
con candado, ¿no? Y nos
and the
dejaban
archive
parados afuera
would
de
be
las
locked.
plantas. Claro, es el miedo al cambio, el temor a perder el
And I
control,
think it's
y lo
the
entendemos, ¿no?
fear
Ha sido un año
to change
de
and
un esfuerzo
fear of
para
change.
por fin tenemos,
I
yo
think it's a
diría,
year
el
to make an effort
95% de los contratos,
where I
y
think we
los
can
estamos
talk about
subiendo a una base de
95% of
datos
the
y los vamos a
contracts,
subir a una herramienta.
and we're elaborating a
También
database.
otra de las cosas con las que
And
nos encontramos era
another of the things that we found
también tenemos todos los contratos
was a
en
lot
ese
of
archivero.
Excel and
pero
all of the
encontramos
contracts in that filing cabinet.
Contratos que no tienen áreas,
And the contracts that don't have
contratos
areas,
tienen
or
un addendum, que el
contracts
addendum no está,
that
etcétera.
have an
Entonces,
addendum
los
and the
europeos
addendum's
van nadando
missing,
también contra la corriente ahí junto a mí, ¿no?
and a lot of people are
No
swimming
sabemos
against the
cuál es
tide.
la dirección de bienes raíces. Como somos una dirección nueva,
We don't know
en
what
Grupo
the
Bimbo,
direction should be
aunque la dirección tiene
for
el
this
peso
group.
que debe tener,
Even though the direction
nadie
has
nos
a lot of
conocía,
weight,
¿no? Entonces,
no
"Oigan, ¿no
one
tienen
really knew
políticas?".
us.
No. Pues entonces yo me sigo por la libre. Pues,
No.
hay un alto. Si a mí no me das el reglamento de tránsito, me lo paso.
If you don't give me
O
the
sea, ya sé que
transit
no me lo debo pasar, pero
regulation,
si no tienen políticas, a
I'll
mí me da mucha pena, yo me lo sigo
I'll
pasando,
do
¿no?
whatever I want.
Entonces, estamos implementando políticas.
So we're
Llegábamos a las
implementing
plantas y
policies.
necesitamos una autorización del director de bienes raíces para decirle a mi
And we needed,
director
for
que me dé la
example, a
información.
real estate manager to give us an authorization to
Vuelos
provide
4 de la
information
mañana
to
que
our
seguro
manager.
todos los hemos tomado.
And at
4 de
4
la
a.m.
mañana
we had
llegaba la
flights that I know all of
representante
you have
para
probably definitely
caminar
taken
acá
those
adentro.
kind of flights. and we would be waiting an hour outside the door. It's one of the challenges, really. So how much do we pay in rent? And in shared services department, they know how to do that. They would say, no, we don't control this stuff. This is something different. It was something of a ping pong ball. No one would take responsibility. And we started talking about change. Especially change management. And I'll talk about that more in detail. When we start speaking about this kind of changes, the first reaction was that each manager needed his own office and bathroom. Maybe a jacuzzi or something, or a meeting room. I'll continue. When we saw this problem, what do we need? We ask ourselves. We need policies and procedures. And how? Well, obviously aligned with the best practices. I worked for a transnational company for 18 years, and it was already done, already implemented. So we're asking ourselves, what could we do to create this process? It's a long bureaucratic system to get everything authorized, but we're there. So what do we want to control? As facility managers, what we're most worried about is the useful life of the asset. So, in the past forum, we were talking about how everything should be controlled by a unique system, a standard system. Maybe it should be that way, because if we don't have standardized control of administration, we don't know how much we're spending. We cannot prove spending or savings, and we have to control the administration in a definitive way. Why do we have to look at the capacity of the users? Because what we do, we have to do it right. But if we aren't comfortable with where we work, we cannot do a good job. And that's something that all of us facility managers face. It has to be a comfortable place to work. Everything, obviously, inside the framework, the legal and institutional framework. But once you have a framework, it's easier for people to move along that line. So what do we want? And most of you probably have this. We have standardized procedures, playbooks. This helps us reduce errors and mistakes. And have less people in between, and it's streamlined, and you know how to do it. Right now we don't have these streamlined authorization lines, chains of command. So what do you need? We already have a format with our needs, and then we have managers authorizing it. And we also mitigate risks. We don't rent out space that we don't need. They would say, yeah, you just go ahead and rent it. It doesn't matter. 3 months after doing this kind of things, it happens a lot. We did a whole procedure to rent out a space. And the day we were going to lease it, they said, we don't need it. But of course, they would charge the expenditure. It doesn't matter who asks for it. Once it's charged on the expense account, there's a responsibility involved. And obviously you have to participate in the decision-making process to be able to be effective. And then we find the new work procedures. I've been here for a year and a half, and I can tell you that I don't have my own assigned office space. It doesn't matter. 46% of the time I'm not at my desk, so I don't really need it. And why, according to that, we're going to align with the best practices. Well, the manager would say, I can't lose my office, so that was hard. But the opportunity came out for a young manager to talk to one of the owners, and he was giving a region because of a trip I had programmed to Chile for the database. I had this opportunity to get to know the space that he needed. I said, how many people do you need? 30? Perfectly, no problem. What do you want? He said, what do you propose? And I said, open plan space. Perfect. I gave him all the theory and the background that he needed to know, and he bought it. So as a result of this, we are going to have in Chile the first Bimbo open plan space offices with a manager that's going to sit on a chair like everyone else without his own bathroom or meeting room. The United States will also want to present a project. It's in our hands to generate this change. I invited the human resources director at Bimbo to this region so he could see all this, and he was fascinated. So from real estate and human resources, we are now a team. We have these tools and the power to generate this change. Always swimming against the tide, but making others swim with us. And what do we want? Ultimately, our main aim is to generate savings. We have to save money. Bimbo is a bread manufacturer. What I want is the money that Bimbo generates to be invested in research and development. And my concern is that the savings go to the business side. What we want is the best conditions in our location. And that's part of the responsibility, and all of us. And with this, we're going to optimize the asset value. I'll go back to yesterday where someone said that less space, less cost is equals to less cost. It seems like we're generating savings so we can reinvest it in the company. And for the conclusions, what are we looking for as part of this challenge? All of us. I can see that all of us share this view. We have to align all of the process and policies with the best global practices, to implement modernization strategies, to create an agile and dynamic environment. We always have to be open to change. We're proposing change and being open and generating change. We have to adapt to the needs and changes. And we need a model that is profitable and generates revenue. Thank you very much.